So we're going to start by drawing the trees in the background. So, there's going to be some white spots. We're going to want to leave the white of the page, and we can mark those out and avoid them. So for now, we're going to start at the top of the tree, and we're just using the same thing we did when we were drawing the bricks. We're just scribbling in the leaves. Now, we want to leave some of the white of the page through it because these are tree branches and leaves, and you can generally see through them. I'm just going to draw the outline of the trunk that goes up. Just kind of figure out where it goes and then do some of the branches going off. And you can see I make a lot of motions before I put the pen down, just to kind of see it in my mind first. And again, we're just scribbling, so I'm going to scribble over those branch lines I've drawn so things overlap and some things look like they go behind. So I'm kind of doing a mid-tone scribble over everything, and then where I see there's darker parts, I'll go back over and scribble and darken those up. So I bring in my photo reference here, and I think the tree needs to come out a little bit further, but for the most part I'm pretty happy with how it looks. And again, we're just using the same scribbles that we did on our brick wall texture. And now these look like leaves, and the last thing we did, it looked like kind of rough stone. So there's all these tiny little branches, and they don't have to be exact, but I'm going to go in and just roughly put these branches in where I think they are. So I'm pretty happy with that. There's a couple branches in here, so I'm pretty good with that. So now I'm going to do the tree next to it that's just a little bit lighter. Doesn't have as many leaves. A little more sky can be seen through it. So I'm going to do the trunk and then just do some scribbles for these leaves. Now I'm going to move down and just start getting some of the trees below. Now some of these are going to overlap my trunk and some are going to go behind. And again, we're just using scribbles. So I can just kind of go through and define the height of these trees. All these scribbles are going to kind of disappear. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to just work in some of the pine trees that I see in there with a little darker value. Now I'm kind of doing what I did with the bricks, just scribbling in those areas that are going to have the darkest value. So I kind of know where I'm working, where the highlights are going to be, and where those core shadows are going to be. In those dark areas, I can go in and hatch a little bit, but since these are trees, I'd mostly like to keep this to scribbling, but if you want to darken them up a little bit more, you can go in and hatch a little bit. You don't want a ton of straight lines in tree branches and leaves. You want kind of that more natural scribble all over the place, like a plant would look. So I'm going to bring in my photo reference. So we kind of have this pine or fir tree here, kind of that triangle shape with different levels of branches, kind of like a Christmas tree. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to define those dark areas where those branches are. For the most part, we want to keep these dark areas kind of horizontal more than verticals because that horizontal look gives it the look like there's layers of branches overhanging other branches. So just make sure they're kind of more horizontal and long to give that textured overlapping tree look. And again, I'm avoiding doing a lot of hatching here. A lot of this darkness is just scribbles to give me those kind of tree, shrub, plant look. So again, we bring in my photo reference. You can see there's a defined shape. It's dark to the right, so I can go in and really darken up that right edge of this tree because all the stuff right of the tree is pretty dark. And anywhere the trees are going to be lined up against the house, I'm going to draw those lines in. I'm also just going to leave little areas that are going to stay white. I'm sketching these out. These lines will disappear when I put all the scribbling around them, but there is quite a bit of white in this area, so I'm just kind of putting these lines that I'm going to leave the white of the page, and I'll do some overlapping on them, but for the most part I'm going to leave them pretty white. So you can see how I'm scribbling around them, leaving them white, and that's just going to add texture and depth to this image. So you can see I'm doing a little overlapping, but for the most part I'm leaving it pretty white. I'm filling it around, and then all these spaces between I'll fill in later, but I want to make sure I get these separated so I don't miss them. So this is where we're going to stop this video. We'll continue on in our next video doing the rest of this, but this is where you should be after today, and we will continue on in the next video filling all of this space in. And you can go in and define just these couple lines on the side of our house.